All right, well, do you have any questions? Anything you were going to do before you did? Okay. Well, Patricia is our boundaries teacher. She's taught boundaries, a book by Clowns. What did I even told myself before I said it, don't say clowns.
Townsend and Cloud.
Thank you. I'll just move my lips. So that usually happens on Wednesday nights in the fall, right?
No, actually in the winter time.
Our winter solstice, our winter class that we usually have here. That's like our dinners we do the Wednesday night. So she's taught that now, I think, for three years now.
Yes, 3 years.
3 years, and she keeps building on that and building on that. And it kind of got started because we wanted her to teach what she's teaching tonight, but then she said, well, we need a foundation. So if you like what you hear tonight, look for it next winter, especially because they give the whole scheme of the boundaries. This is going to be a little bit of a taste of it, but it's also a great book to read if you pick it up. They have this book, and they also have the regular boundaries book. They do boundaries with kids. They do boundaries in dating, boundaries in probably workplace.
I haven't seen that one.
I haven't seen that one. I just made it up, so we're all right.
They have a lot of boundaries.
They have a lot of boundaries.
That way.
But it's good. It's kind of teaching how they have others teach you. I don't want to step, whatever she's going to be teaching on, but I really appreciate Patricia. I'm having a hard time with my throat. I was sick for like 2 weeks and I got better.
This sounds great, doesn't he?
But I really appreciate Patricia put so much time and effort into this, how she teaches. She's just recently got a certificate in project management.
Project management. I also have a certificate as a certified professional coach as well.
Right.
So
if you need,
if you have any questions later on, or you want the material, you could always email me at theboundariescoach@gmail.com.
Awesome. Very much. She'll probably give you
I
all that
always,
information.
have a list that I send out for any, when I'm doing a teaching. So, anyway.
But she just came off a year of extreme, crazy teaching in classes and all that. And I've known Patricia for a long time. She's a woman of absolute integrity. And I've already appreciated being her friend for, gosh, I don't know, 2-3 years now, or even longer.
Actually, I think it's only been like a year and a half.
Oh, it's been that. It's okay. It just feels like a long time. But she's really a woman, I believe, of extreme wisdom, and I appreciate having somebody to go to that has. I mean, sometimes it's tough. You can talk to the guys sometimes, but sometimes we need a different perspective, because sometimes we're very, anybody that knows us guys, how we can be. But it's really wonderful to be able to bounce off ideas. She's just a woman of wisdom and integrity, and I really appreciate her. So let's give it up for Patricia.
Thank you. I'm going to switch mics here.
So she's already pushing me aside.
No.
Switching mics.
No, I gotta get comfortable, right? Okay, so I might give you a little bit of my background, and actually I've been a student of boundaries for a long time because I grew up without boundaries, and so it's one of those things that I had to learn later in life. And it's a recovery process, so I'm still a student, I'm still learning, and yeah, like Mike said, I was originally asked to do the boundaries in dating, but I just really felt the foundation is important, and now 3 years later I've been teaching that class, and so hopefully you'll get something out of this tonight. I wish it was more of an upbeat subject, but what can I say? It's really about your character when you date. And if you look up at the no drama sign, this is a clear indication of if you have boundary issues, you usually have drama in your life. So if you've got drama in your life, it has to do with boundaries. If you've got drama in your dating life, same thing. So anyway, to start off, so Jackie, oh, you're already on the slide. Okay, so I'm going to cover some boundary basics and as it pertains to dating. Boundaries define who you are and who you are not. Boundaries are tools in your life to develop love, responsibility, and freedom. Yeah, freedom. Can you believe that? I'll explain more later. And boundaries give us a clarity of our values, our preferences, our morals, and solve problems before they start. Once you're setting boundaries, that is. So when it comes to dating, boundaries in dating is about our character when we date, like I said earlier. And dating is a means, the definition of dating as it is in the Cloud and Townsend book, is a means to find out what kind of person we complement with whom we are spiritually and emotionally compatible, and it's a training ground for marriage. So, I have a question for you. In this room, can we all agree that the purpose of dating is generally to decide sooner or later whether or not to marry? Do you agree with that statement?
Yeah.
Need a visor to see you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. So anyway, that's the premise of this talk too. And tonight we're going to focus on your character in dating. Okay. Next slide. So I'm going to go through a few character pitfalls in dating. And so the first one is allowing yourself to be controlled by another person. And usually this entails giving up your identity and lifestyle to keep a relationship. Does that sound familiar to anybody? And there's a loss of freedom. So God gives us free will. Do you agree with that?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Then why would we allow someone to take your free will away from you? So think about that if you are being in a controlling type of relationship or giving your freedom away. Why would you do that? And then putting the shoe on the other foot, why would you want to take someone else's freedom away if this is a God-given right? So it's good to think about that if you're involved in any kind of relationship where you're being controlled, and stop and think about that. And then there's being the knight in shining armor. Or night test. So if you have a tendency to want to rescue people, and there's a couple things to think about here is, one, you're getting your ego boosted while not letting the other person take care of their own responsibilities. So it's important to have people take care of their own responsibilities because it's a lesson that they need to learn. And as I always say, enabling is disabling. So if you happen to be an enabler kind of personality, it disables a person. Now, I do want to give you a picture of the differences on helping someone, right? Because I know the Bible talks a lot about, we're to help others. And I think it's important to give a picture of what the differences are. So if there's a person who has a big boulder that they cannot carry by themselves, that they're overwhelmed by, right, they need help. Agreed? Okay. But if someone has their own backpack of responsibilities, well, that's something that they should be taking care of. And we see in Luke where a Good Samaritan is taking care of a person, but for a short time until that person gets better, back on their feet, right? So it's not a permanent situation where you're constantly taking care of this other person. And there's a little bit of control in that as well, too, if you think about it. Because, okay, you get an ego out of it. Oh, I'm the hero. And it's also there's a little bit of control, if you think about it. So then we go to the other side of the fence where it's playing the damsel in distress, right? Someone who wants to be rescued. And the issue that comes up there is not taking responsibility for oneself, playing the victim, and also blaming others for their problems. And that's not a good position to be in, right? We want to take responsibility for what is ours. And that's why I think that picture of the backpack versus the boulder is a good picture, so that way we can differentiate between the two. Okay, any questions on that so far? Nope, okay. We'll go to the next slide.
Actually, I got a question.
Yes.
You're talking about being the knight in shining armor and carrying the backpack compared to, but you talk about control on the other side, so you're going to kind of control from the person who's expecting to be rescued and also control from the person who's rescued. Is that kind of what you're saying there?
Well, yeah, I mean, if someone's being rescued or playing the damsel, the victim, the damsel in distress, it's really about not taking responsibility and having the other person take responsibility for them. It can be used as a form of control. They can use manipulation to try and get that, you know, create a crisis. And then that makes you react and go, oh my gosh, there's this big crisis going on, so I have to rescue this person. I have to help them because they created a situation that's in dire straits. So, yeah, there's manipulation involved in that, isn't there? Yes?
How about if there's a boulder in the backpack and the person wants to abandon you or accompany you?
Well, I'm not sure what you're getting at with that.
Okay, what I'm getting at is being manipulated and getting blamed for everything. So it's like playing that thing in distress. But anyway, like they say, you're the victim and the other person wants to be the victim too. There's two people.
Two victims?
Yes, because getting blamed for their problems.
Well,
It's just like in that one, enabling. Playing the demons in distress. That's mean the other person's playing the distressed person.
so there's two distressed persons,
Yeah.
that's what you're saying?
Yes, there's two. There's not only one.
You got something back there?
Oh.
Do the temperaments tie into this? The 4 personality types, the choleric, sanguine, melancholic, phlegmatic? Did that relate
No,
to this?
we
Are you
don't,
acquainted with that?
I don't cover that in here. This is mostly, this information is covered from Cloud and Townsend. Okay. Okay,
Anything
so,
about in the Bible about all this, though?
what?
Anything in the Bible about all this?
Well, yeah, in Luke, he talks about where someone was beat up on the road and he helped the person out and the Good Samaritan helped him out, you know, but it was over time until the person could get back on their feet again, right? So that way, that's, the boulder is different from the
Maybe
backpack.
Samaritan didn't have enough money to help the other guy out or whatever, though.
Well, it doesn't say that, so.
Yeah, the Bible doesn't say that, yes.
Well, in the beginning, when you first go out, you're searching to see maybe what kind of person they are. But this kind of interpreting that we all start out with a game plan. Is that true?
No, what I'm bringing up here is some examples of character pitfalls that we do run into in dating, okay?
But I mean, that's a good idea to date more than once or twice, unless you know right away that someone isn't.
Right, right. It takes time to get to know someone. So I'm just covering some of the pitfalls, character pitfalls in dating, just to give some example on that. Yes?
I would just like to say that the Good Samaritan is a very good example, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks.
And he did have some money because he paid the innkeeper. his
Right,
money.
right,
He
he
didn't
did.
stick around. He didn't stick around in the guy's life. He got him settled and then he took off.
Right.
And did what he's supposed to do. So very good
Should
example.
be that thing.
So I think it's good to see the difference between the backpack and the boulder. Okay, yes?
It's also good to know which of these, if you are, you are.
And we'll be getting into that more, okay? So, the next slide, yeah, we're on that slide, thank you, Jackie. Okay, so another pitfall is too much too soon. You love to fall in love. So, there's something to be said for the infatuation stage when you're dating. And we see things with rose-colored glasses. I don't know if this happens to you, but it happens to me, you know. It's like, oh, this is Mr. Wonderful, he's perfect. And it's like you got these rose-colored glasses on, but you have to kind of keep your head together so that way you can see things how they really are in the beginning. Because we both are good foot forward, and we want to be able to keep our head. And so you don't want to go too fast too soon because you don't know what you're getting into. You know, it takes time, as you said, to get to know somebody, and so we want to take that time. And so, and try to determine if you can, if there's enough compatibility to continue the relationship within 1.5 to 3 months, it shouldn't, if you go on like 6 months to a year to figure that out, you have enough information, right? I think you could get enough information if you keep your head within 1.5 to 3 months. So, and then there's missionary dating. You might have seen that happen before here and there. And dating non-believers with intent to convert them. And that relates back to fixing a person and trying to change them, as well as being in control of the relationship. So I've seen people do this who have done that repetitively. And so that's something that is not good, because it automatically puts you in a position of control and trying to change someone, which is not a good way to start out trying to change someone. And another pitfall is serial dating. Dating the same person with 5 different names. We covered this one in the boundaries class, didn't we? So if you have a tendency to be dating like the same personality type that comes up over and over, you want to stop and figure out what you're being attracted to. There's something there that you need to look at to figure out what that is. It may be a lack of commitment. It may be not being able to connect intimately. It may be trying to work out your past. You may be dating your ex-wife all over again, kind of thing. There's something that needs to be worked out there. So stop and try and figure it out. And try and figure it out, and start getting to know others that are not that type of personality. For me, I've taught the class, the boundaries class, 3 times now. And from that, it's really helping me bring my guard down, because I kind of have a high guard, if anybody's known me for the past few years. So I've been lowering my guard down because I'm learning better how to set boundaries, learning better to communicate. And I'm getting to know the guys around here, which we've got a lot of great guys. And it's so that way I could start looking at more healthier men versus unhealthy, because my picker's off. And so I need to be able to recognize the more healthy people. And, that's usually someone who's working on their stuff versus not working on their stuff. So keep that in mind. And then we have wanting what we can't have. Actually, this does happen. Being attracted to unavailable people, whether they're married or someone else's girlfriend or boyfriend. And this is actually very destructive, and it keeps you perpetually dissatisfied, and it's about envy. And it sets you up for failure too. So if the grass is always greener out here, you're never going to be satisfied, you're never going to be happy if it's something out there that's unattainable. So we want to be able to watch out for that one. And figure out why you're attracted to things that you can't have. Take the time to take a look at that. There's more of that covered in the Boundaries Dating book as well. Any questions on that?
What do you mean it's not always about envy, though? It could be like a safe place, right?
Well, yeah. So it's really about, you got to be honest with yourself and go, okay, if I'm always attracted to someone I can't have, why am I being attracted to someone I can't have?
And it's not always about envy, right?
Yeah, you need to find out what that trigger is. What is making them look so attractive? And really dig inside yourself. It may be that you're not over an ex. So in the book it says a lot of it is about envy, because it perpetuates enviness. Does that make sense? Okay, I want Joan's boyfriend, so I'm going to sit here and be bummed because I can't have Joan's boyfriend. So that automatically puts me in an envious position.
Yes, but then what if he did Joan's boyfriend, and then?
Well, okay. Do you see the problem with that though? It's like already I'm coveting Joan's boyfriend, and then I'm gonna go and pursue him, and I'm gonna hurt Joan to get to her boyfriend. You see, there's just a trail of sin just going on after that. It's like,
It's not about envy anymore, right?
yeah, but look at the path that it leads to. Look how many broken hearts are gonna be covered by that. So, yeah, we don't want to cover that. You know, and there should be, you know, other people, yes.
Yeah, the only thing that's kept me from doing something like that a lot of times is my commitment to Jesus Christ, my service and my loyalty to Jesus Christ, and being willing to do what the Lord would have me to do to please the Lord. If I have to do something that I otherwise want that wouldn't be right, I have to do what the Lord would have me to do rather than what I want to do.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. That was great. Okay. Let's go ahead to the next slide. Okay, some of you have seen this in the boundaries class, and I put this in here because I really think it's important, and this is why I always teach the boundaries class instead of boundaries and dating. And I think everybody should have this information because it affects all our relationships and it helps us navigate through relationships. Now, I myself am a recovering compliant because my character defects are a recovery process. And number one is a recovering compliant. I have a hard time saying no. And you say yes to the bad because you can't say no. So anyway, this relates to people pleasing. It's consistently reacting to others instead of knowing where your boundaries are. And then sometimes, if you're used to reacting to everything that's going on around here, outside of you, right, you don't know, you're saying yes to this or that and reacting, you don't know where your own boundaries are, and you need to stop and you need to learn where your boundaries are and ask yourself, well, how do I feel about this? How do I think about that? And learning how to say no. So that is what a compliant is. Someone who has a problem saying no. Number two is an avoidant. And this is saying no to the good, and this is unable to ask for help. And a lot of times the compliant and avoidant go together because you can't say no and you have problems asking for help. So how do you cure that? You have to start asking for help. And you do it in baby steps. Ask for, you know, someone to help you with something here that's small. Because what ends up happening when you're avoidant, you end up in isolation. There was something that I saw on TV, I think the other night, where someone was having a heart attack in a room, and there was other people in the room, and no one knew he was having a heart attack because he wasn't asking for help. And I think his heart ended up being extra damaged because of that, or he died. But that's kind of an example of what an avoidant is. You know, they're in a room full of people and they still can't ask for help when they're in a real hard place. Yes?
The guy that had a heart attack, what if others just made a joke about it, that were around him instead of helping?
What?
What if others just made a joke about it rather than trying to help?
What if?
What if?
Yeah.
Well, that's not good.
It's not good people that do that.
Yeah, that's not good. Okay, number three is a controller, not respecting others' boundaries. And that's basically someone who doesn't hear your no. You say no and they, so what? They don't care. So you kind of get, you know, they're going to do what they want to do anyway, even though you've said no. And number four is a manipulative controller, and we talked a little bit about that earlier. And basically, a person who will try and use your information to manipulate, to persuade, or to problem solve to get you to do what they want you to do. Okay, and with a manipulative controller, understand that there is an underlying need, want, or desire that is driving the person, and it can be as simple as them not wanting to be alone. So this person is driven, right? And you'll see that a lot with someone who's controlling, manipulating. There's something that's driving them, need, want, or desire. And that's where they are trying to get you to do something and, you know, oh, well, you know, I want to borrow your car. You say no. And, well, you know, you could go take the bus here and I could borrow your car, and they start problem solving so that way they get your car. That's kind of an example of a manipulator. And, but understand that they use information you give them. So you want to be careful about what information you give them and say no. Okay? And then number 5 is the aggressive controller. Now these are real violators of others' boundaries that don't hear no, steamroll over, and you're probably dealing with someone who is either abusive or borderline abusive. And because it's just very aggressive behavior, whether it's verbally or physically. In a situation like that, the best way to deal with it is to get physical distance. So that's something to make sure that happens, is you get physical distance if you're dealing with someone who's an aggressive controller. Okay. And then there's the combination. We've got a compliant, avoidant controllers. And this is the person who will do you a favor without communicating the price tag attached. And you've probably been in those situations where someone's done something for you, or they're giving you a present or something, and then next thing you know, they're mad at you because you didn't reciprocate on something that they wanted you to do. And it's like, oh, here's this, and then later on, there's this thing that they want you to do, and you say no, and then they're upset with you, and they're going, why are they mad at me? So there's that. And then last, there is the non-responsive, and that's not hearing the needs of others, where your needs, you talk about how you feel, and they don't even hear how you feel. You know, they don't hear your words. It's like your feelings don't exist. So, and a lot of times a controlling, non-responsive combination go together. So, what happens when you get a compliant and a controller together? Anybody know this one?
Are you married?
Yes! Think about it, right?
Yeah, then divorce, yeah.
Right, because the compliant has problems saying no, which is perfect for a controller because they could get this person to do whatever they want them to do. Kind of thing. Okay, any questions on those? Speechless. Okay, if you want to learn more information on that, it's in the Boundaries book. It's not in the Boundaries dating, but it's in the Boundaries book. So. Okay, now we're moving on to owning your own truth in dating. What mask are you wearing? This I found interesting. This is in the Boundaries in Dating book. And I thought this was interesting because these are subtle deceptions that, you know, I never really paid attention to until I started reading it and going, oh, yeah, this is interesting. So we're going to start off with truth equals trust, right? You got to have truth in a relationship, and you got to have trust, and one equals the other. And where there's deception, there is no relationship. That's a big deal. So always keep that in mind. And so we have these subtle masks that we wear, and we'll start with the friendship mask. This is being a friend when really wanting more and not communicating that to the other person. And this is also can be a false hope if it's not reciprocated. Now, I don't know if any of you ladies have read the book, He's Not That Into You.
Seeing the movie.
Yeah, there's the movie too. I forgot about the movie. Well, anyways, I know that's a secular book, but I recommend all ladies to read it because my life would have been so different if I'd known about this sooner, because I kind of used to be stuck in this mode where, you know, as women, we have a tendency to go, you know, hang out with someone, oh yeah, I like him, and you're hanging out with them, and all this time's going by, and other women are telling you, oh, he's just not quite ready yet, but I think he really likes you. And what's really going on is he's not that into you. So it's like, okay, women and men do think differently. So I think it's a good book to read, and I think we need to be upfront. You know, we do have our friendships, which are good, and want to continue on those. If you feel your feelings are changing, then communicate them. Because you end up losing time if you don't. I lost a couple of years hanging out with someone that, you know, was never interested in me. I'm going, you know, I can't get those years back. So, anyways, it's good to communicate if your feelings are changing to the other person, so that way you find out what the reality is, instead of getting stuck in false hope. Okay, and then the dating mask. That is, you're just not into them, but you stick around out of the convenience and don't want to be single. And you've probably seen that before, where, you know, there's some people who hate being single, just cannot stand it. I dated a guy, absolutely could not stand being single. And okay, he's been divorced twice now, so I think it's better to be, you know, single and versus being in a bad relationship. That's my philosophy, because I don't think it's that much fun if you're going to remain in a bad relationship. So anyway, you want to make sure that you're not being driven by this negative perception that you have about being single. And there are perceptions out there, and frankly, I kind of throw them all away because, you know, oh, you know, the church is all about married people, blah, blah, blah. You know, this day and age, let's face it, the divorce rate is way over 50%. Actually, it's probably closer to 80% is the real fact on that. And, you know, everybody's in different stages of their life, where we're single, widowed, married, divorced, you know, we're all in these different stages. And I think we need to see each other as people versus single, married, you know, whatever. Yes?
For every 10 marriages, there's at least about 6 divorces.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. And a lot of singles I know serve in the church, and, you know, we've got a lot going on in our lives, so it's not a bad word. It's not a bad thing. So don't be in a relationship just to not be single. Okay, so might want to take off that mask. Mask of others in your life. That's where there's still exes that are still involved in your life, and the cord's not cut. So new dates come along, and they have to compete for your attention. I had this one friend of mine who, she was engaged, and she broke off the engagement, and she started dating another guy. And the guy had noticed that she did not give back the engagement ring. And that was a little red flag. Well, sure enough, she was still in communication with her ex, and she ended up going back to her ex and marrying him instead of the guy she was dating. So if there are some ties there and you're dating someone else, you really need to figure out what you want to do with that tie. If that is something, a relationship that isn't resolved yet, we need to resolve that, and before bringing another person into the equation, because it kind of gets muddy and confusing, and you don't want to deceive somebody, because this is really about, you know, these little deceptions that happen. Okay, and then let's see, a mask of who we are and masking the facts about us. That's kind of they kind of go together, because it's about wearing a mask about, you know, who we are, what our struggles are, our addictions, our finances, our past, our achievements, and it could be about bragging about our achievements, saying, you know, I'm the knight in shining armor, I'm wonderful, I've got it all together, and when in fact that's not the case. Or it could be, you know, other finances or past, and concealing the negative attributes, right? So I don't say, you know, go give all your cards away on your table when you first start dating, but at some point you need to communicate what's real going on in your life, right? You don't obviously do that the first date, but as you're getting to know someone, you want to be able to put the cards on the table and say, this is me, this is who I really am, can you deal with that? So it's letting go of that mask as well. On that, yes.
How many, is there a set number of dates to figure out if you're not into somebody? You know, like how many dates should you try before
If you're not that into them,
yeah.
I think you're going to find out initially, probably in the first 3. Yeah, at least the first 3, you know, and I may be wrong at that. Other people might have a better opinion on that.
It's usually the first 3.
I usually, like I said, to figure out whether or not there's a future in a relationship, whether, you know, I like this person, I'm getting to know them, right? That 1.5 to 3 months is usually a good target range for me to figure out if there's a future on the compatibility. Because you kind of got to get through that whole infatuation stage too, because it's kind of a nice drug. It's like, ooh, this is fun. But yeah, as far as how long to know if you're that into them, anybody got any opinions on that out there? Do you have any opinions on that?
It depends on how long you haven't, it depends on how long you haven't seen them too. If it's once a week, or twice a week, or 3 times a week.
That's a good point. That's a good
And it
point.
depends if she can't, you have to phone her by 10 o'clock before she goes to bed.
Yeah, I think that's probably going to be a personal preference. Kent, you've got something?
Yeah, I think we should see them at their full range of emotions. Sad, happy, angry,
Oh, I like that.
frustrated.
So should we do things to antagonize that?
Mike, you'd be good at that.
It'll be the first dates.
You know, there's always our attraction level too that we have to contend with when we're getting to know someone as well. Chemistry and all that. I'm not going to go into that stuff. Yes?
So about the negative attributes, we all have light and dark sides.
Yes, we do.
And I found usually, you know, that first couple days, or you to know someone, I'm putting my best foot forward.
Right.
And I wonder if like this whole truth equals trust. I'm wondering how does one still be honest and truthful, you know, how I am, and still put the best foot forward, because my situations will come about where then you'll see someone handle disappointment or irritation or frustration or tiredness or, oh, I just want my way right now, or, you know, irritation and happy and silly. How do you kind of, I wonder how boundaries plays into that.
Well, I think first of all, as you're getting to know someone, right?
You can't completely conceal the negative attributes because they will come out eventually.
Right.
But those first couple of days
Yeah,
and
the
months,
first couple of days.
yeah, like, you know.
Well, yeah, it's going to take a first couple of days before any of that stuff starts coming out. You know, you don't want to dump on them. You know, I think you got to figure it out what your own style is and how to release the information as you're getting to know somebody and the flow of conversation, and you know, but have that intent somewhere as you're in your dating process to go, okay, well, I need to be honest. I need them to know this information about me because they need to know. And yeah, you're going to have to figure that out, you know, as each situation. Yes?
And I think when we talk about truth and trust, I mean, we gotta look at what is truth. You know, first of all, and it's the Word of God. And I think I was thinking about, when you were talking, I was thinking about Psalm 37:4, where it tells us, delight yourself in the Lord, he'll give you the desires of your heart. And as we're delighting in him, we're seeking the Lord and we're in prayer about it. I believe that God's going to bring us those people in our lives to be able to kind of sort through. And it's kind of where we've got to find out where we're looking to. Where are we looking for somebody? I mean, if we're going to be in the bars, and if we're looking that way, then of course we're going to attract people that are that's where they're at. If we're in like a situation like we are right here, we're a room filled with, obviously people who are interested in the things of the Lord and we're already like-minded here.
Right.
And so as I think as you're gathered around with people like that and you're starting to just build friendships and relationships with people like this, you start to see, oh, I like that attribute, or I don't like the way that is, or you kind of start to see, I think you start making a list of saying, here's the things that I can, this is what I believe, this is what God wants me to have in a future person in my life. Whether girlfriend or wife or whatever that is, this is who I want a wife, or this is who I want a husband. And then I think he's going to, as you pray about that, I think he's going to give those, bring those things to you.
Just don't pull that list out on the first date.
Absolutely.
Start checking things off.
I think you should have fun on the first date.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
That's my thought. Yes.
I appreciate you pointing out. I think what I was kind of trying to make sense of, I think it's normal to conceal negative attributes in the first couple of months. I think that's normal. We're wanting to put our best foot forward. And then consciously concealing negative attributes doesn't do any good to it because you're not living your truth. We're light and dark.
Right.
And so,
Well, I'm thinking 3 months would be a long time,
yes.
And I think as you get to know someone, if you're really spending the time trying to get to know them, right, you're going to be sharing information, and that information should come out. If you keep sweeping it under the rug, well, then it's going to happen later on, and that's going to take more time. Him first, then you. Go ahead.
What I was thinking about on the whole truth to the trust thing is, if you start looking at the early on relationship with the small truths, not the dark side. I understand what you're saying about the dark side. And you're sharing just the small truths about, what your home life was like, not bad, but like I lived with my mom and my sisters and whatever, and you can see it, and you start building like some kind of rapport, a truth rapport, that builds a little bit of trust, because you can trust that person a little bit. And so as the relationship starts to get bigger and bigger, and then the negative starts coming, you have a little bit of trust in the bank. That's a bad way of saying that. I mean,
Actually, I like the way you said that.
just kind of have it built up a little bit to where you can, you can sit there and go, oh, I can trust this person. I'm really pissed off right now. I can be vulnerable right now in front of, Rob or whoever I'm with, because I'm just so, I just have to let it out. It's just like,
I think that's good the way that you put it. Her than you. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I was just thinking, why can't people just why do they have to be on their best self, or why can't they just be themselves on the first date?
Well, I think you should be yourself. I mean, I kind of like to have fun on the first date just because you want to be able to, enjoy each other's company and enjoy the date versus, starting pulling out the interview list. But yeah, I think we need to.
But not covering anything up, just having fun, but not.
Right, and being authentic. Being authentic. Yeah. Go ahead.
Should the negative be a chance for us to have a chance to pray for others about the negative, that God will help them overcome it, rather than be judgmental and condemning them about it?
I think that is really important. And I think we need to get to a place where we're comfortable enough to be able to start praying for each other in these areas. So I second that motion. Yes.
The argument or the subject of best, putting your best foot forward, is a good principle because of the point that we all want to be the best we can be. And I was a young man when I read that the best usually get the best, and by being the best person I could possibly be, I am also providing the kind of person that somebody else would like to engage with or spend time with. So I can begin by being the very best person I can be. I don't want the worst doctor to be working on me. Or I don't want to go to the medium restaurant for dinner. I want the best. And so I'm going to be the best person I can be. I'm going to have the best relationship with God that I could possibly have. And if I could meet somebody who's feeling the same way, I'm going to be a little more comfortable. But I'm going to work on myself, and then I'll worry about what other people are doing.
I think that's really important, and that's why I'm bringing this stuff up, so that way we can look at ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, as I was saying in the boundaries class, the blame game. There's 3 fingers pointed back at me when I point at you. So I need to take a look at those 3 fingers and that log that's in my eye. Okay, so going on to the couple of final points here. So when it comes to like when people end up in marriage counseling, right, it's more about the boundary defect or character defects which causes problems in relationships, not that they're funny enough, right? Because a lot of times when we start dating, oh, I want him to have a sense of humor and, you know, this and that, all those positive attributes, but that's not what ends up at the marriage counselor's office. So that's why I'm covering a lot of this stuff here. And I think it's really important to stress, since we're Christians, that integrity is do what you say and say what you do. Do what you say and say what you do. I think this is really important. I think it's really important for us Christians because we're an example, right? We need to be the example. And if you say that you're going to pick your date up at 7 o'clock, be there at 7 o'clock, you know? So it's really, that's what integrity is doing what we say and say what we do, right? Which leads me to the next one, is actions speak louder than words. So look for the fruit. And when you're dating, right, there's people out there who do lie. And that was a real wake-up call for me. Someone I was dating who said that they're clean from cocaine for 12 years and in recovery. Turns out they were not at all, and there's a lot of lying that went on, and it was very confusing for me because I was very naive in this area. And what I really learned is, okay, I gotta look at someone's fruit, not what they're saying to me. I gotta ignore that now. I need to see what their fruit is. What are they producing? You know, are they late all the time? Are they, you'll find out. You'll find out, because the pieces of the puzzle will not fit. You'll be going, okay, these pieces just don't fit together. I don't know why. That's a clue that something's wrong. Okay? And then as your character prospecting, I'll put it, things to look for are respect, right? The truth and trust earns respect. You know, your common interests and goals. I think a lot of this you probably already know. And common values and spirituality, right? I think that's really important. And we're all a work in progress, right? Like you said, we have a dark side. But the question is, are we working on our stuff? Like you said, you want to be the best that you can be, so you're going to work on yourself. And that brings me up a good question, is your date working on themselves? You know, it's like, that's something I look for now. Are they working on themselves? Because that means there's progress that's going to be made. And then there's a book called The 5 Love Languages. I think that's a really good book because it also helps you communicate. And when it comes to setting boundaries, like in our boundaries class, I think learning how to communicate better and learning our love languages is important because that tells us how we react to our emotions. Like if you need words of affirmation, if that's important to you, right? You want to be with someone who's going to be affirming. quality time, right? If you need quality time, then you don't want to be dating a workaholic. Receiving gifts, right? If that's important to you, then you want to make sure that's something that someone does that, you know. Acts of service, that's an important one for me, is acts of service. And if they don't do that, or, you know, it could be physical touch. So if you ever have a chance, read that book. I think that's really good. And now I'm going to turn over to you. So we have an exercise. And on your tables, we go to the next slide. Okay, what you guys are going to do at each of your tables is you're going to come up with 5 characteristics of what makes a good partner. So you're going to have to talk to each other and come up with 5 different characteristics. They could be spiritually, financially, physically, emotionally. And if you can get to a deeper level, I'd really like you to look at what your character pitfalls are and what you're going to do to try and change that. Now, if you're willing to tread that water, you don't have to, but I think it's worth talking about because it kind of gives you an opportunity to take a look at that. So let's do this for about 10 minutes and huddle around in your groups, and then in 10 minutes I'm going to be, I'll say time in 10 minutes, and then I'll be coming around to your tables where you have to give me the answers back, okay?